going to work later. I don't think we're live.
We are live. It lagged. So, anyway, what's going on, everybody? Welcome into Blazers Uprise Live. I already did my intro, but none of y'all saw it because the YouTube software lagged, and I hit live like a minute ago, and it didn't go live. So, what's going on? Hope your Mondays are going well. Today, we're going to start your week off right with 10 games for picks against the spread. We'll discuss if Dame is on board with the tank job, as he will sit tonight against the Atlanta Hawks with injury management. This is something that the Blazers did earlier this season on a second night of a back-to-back, but they are sitting Dame for injury management purposes after he's had 2 rest days. The Blazers have not played since December 31st, so we'll discuss if that means that Dame might be on board with tanking, and we'll discuss, I don't know, we've discussed a lot of tanking stuff lately, so we will have that discussion after picks against the spread, but yeah, little early start, no intro animation or anything because YouTube, for whatever reason, will do that, and I forgot that it will do that. So, starting off the Monday with a good old technical mistake. But we will have a stream later tonight. We will have a segment on our post-game stream tonight that we have never had before. So definitely tune in for the post-game show. We'll roll that out about an hour into things, and that should be pretty fun. I think you guys will enjoy it. Eric, I already asked you this, and then, I think they caught the last, 4 words of your answer, but how is your Monday?
Oh, it's going pretty well. Just got to work, doing a little stream before I get down to some business, and then, watch the game later. So,
yep.
Can't complain.
This is what deja vu feels like, I think. I'm starting to feel deja vu. It's good, man. Just slept in, caught up on some sleep. It'll be great if I win our fantasy football championship tonight. As long as Najee Harris doesn't score 29 points, I'm in the clear. So fingers crossed for that one. If I lose, I will be having a very miserable day. I care more about Najee Harris not popping off tonight than if the Blazers win or lose this game, to be honest with you. And part of that is because I've grown to accept the tank. All right, I'm cool with the tank. But before we discuss the tank, Eric, we got to get into picks against the spread. Here we go. Here are the standings. Jackson's still up top. We only had 3 games last Thursday, so it was a pretty quiet day, but I maintained pace with Jackson. Krish also went 3-1, so he maintained pace with Jackson, I guess you can say, at 28 games back. Everybody else 2-2, except for Zach 1-3. It's just funny thinking back to 3 weeks ago. Trevin, Reese, Zach, me were all within 5 games of Jackson, and now you got Trevin 13 back, Zach and Reese 17 back. I don't know what happened, man.
Yeah, as of right now, I don't think Krish or Reese are in this stream, so
that will be bad.
Yeah.
Might have to have somebody pick for them. Krish has potentially some stuff going on, so hopefully he'll still be able to tune in. But if not, somebody else can try and bring Krish up out of the gutter there at 74 and 103. We do got Trevin, we do got Zach, we do got Jackson. Trevin says his excuse is COVID protocols. What? COVID protocols messed everything up for him. So hopefully that'll be less of a thing. We'll see. Eric, let's just jump into the first game. We got Philadelphia taking on the Houston Rockets. I see you grabbing for some notes there. What are the protocols today?
Rockets have Christian Wood and Kevin Porter suspended for this game. They left, or Christian Wood refused to go back in the game after halftime, and Kevin Porter Jr. left the arena altogether at halftime. So a bit of a bad situation there with them. So they're out for this game, along with Armani Brooks, Alperin, Şengün, and John Wall. And last I saw, Eric Gordon was questionable as well.
He's actually played well this year, too.
For the Sixers, they have Ben Simmons, Jaden Springer, and Miles Powell back. Matisse Thybulle was questionable. I'm just trying to check and see if they updated any of those.
Mm-hmm.
Gordon's starting, so he's playing. Sixers are starting Curry, Green, Korkmaz, Harris, and Embiid. Does that mean Maxey isn't playing?
I would assume so.
Gordon to play. Out. He entered health and safety protocols, I guess.
All right, there's the chat poll.
And Thibault is out as well.
Okay. Chris says he can't watch with audio, so he's going to be picking without injuries. That might actually help him, though, to be honest. So, anyway, I'm going to go... This is so disgusting. I'm going to go with Philadelphia. I don't think Houston has anybody that can match up with Embiid. I am not confident. There's some tough spreads today. I am not confident. I'm not going to be confident in any of these picks. I'm just going to say that right now. Jackson going 76ers. Zach is going Philly as well.
Yeah, I'm going Philly too.
All right.
It's just have too many guys up.
Krish, based on what he sees on the screen, is probably going to go Rockets. Patrick Morehouse asks, who are those players on the video thumbnail? That's Paulo Banchero and Jabari Smith, two of the top 3 prospects in this next year's draft. Yep, there's Krish with Rockets.
Hey, Reese is here. What's up, Reese?
All right. What's up, Reese? All right, we're good to go. Krish got Rockets. We got Trevin and Reese going Sixers. And then we got chat. I'm going to end the chat poll. That was quick. I almost... Yeah, don't hit end stream. Hit end chat poll. You got 76ers at 53% when I ended the poll. It might be a tie now, but... yeah, 76ers at 55% in chat. Anyway, move on to game number 2. Krish on an island once again. Game number 2, you got Washington hosting the Charlotte Hornets. Washington's a 1.5-point home favorite.
All right, the Hornets are without P.J. Washington, Vernon Carey, and Scotty Lewis. The Wizards are without Dinwiddie, Montrezl Harrell, Thomas Bryant, Raul Neto, Aaron Holiday, Brad Wanamaker, Rui Hachimura, and Anthony Gill. Unless there was... I'm trying to get caught up on the injuries as we go here. Hornets starting Ball, Rozier, Hayward, Bridges, and Plumlee, so it looks like they're fairly normal there.
Yeah, they're normal except for Washington.
Yeah. He's been coming off the bench this year. Wizards will start Beal, Caldwell Pope, Abdia, Kuzma, Gafford.
All right, there's the chat poll. I'm going to go with the Wizards. Or not the Wizards. I'm going with the Hornets. What am I talking about? What? I was thinking Hornets and I said Wizards. I'm tripping. Yeah, I'm going Hornets.
And for the record, the Hornets are on a back-to-back, if that matters.
It makes this make a little bit more sense, spread-wise.
I am also going to go Hornets.
Okay.
As are Jackson and Reese. Krish went Wizards.
Of course he did.
Trevin, Hornets.
It's just going to be another Krish Island. That's what it's looking like right now. Chat has Hornets in the lead. I'm waiting on Zach, and then I'll end chat poll. Oh, Hornets went down from 65 to 52%. Chat's trying to bring it back for Washington. All right, Zach, what you got, man? Let me pull it up on my phone. The stream chat's a little faster on my phone.
Yeah, I'm watching too.
All right, Zach's going with the Wizards, so he wants to ruin Krish's 20th island of the season. There we go, Zach, and then I'm gonna end the chat poll. And actually, chat is Wizards, so Zach didn't ruin it by himself. Chat's also gonna ruin Krish's island. Krish is upset right now, I bet. Game number 3, you got Brooklyn hosting Memphis. Brooklyn is a 6.5-point favorite.
So the Nets are without Kyrie Irving because it's a home game, and Joe Harris. Not sure if Aldridge is playing or not. He was questionable. Dylan Brooks, Kyle Anderson, DeAnthony Melton, Xavier Tillman, Zaire Williams, all out for the Grizzlies. Dylan Brooks, Kyle Anderson, DeAnthony Melton, Xavier Tillman, Zaire Williams.
Okay, those are all like pretty meaningful names, actually. This is a tough one.
I'm gonna go Nets. So is Jackson. Reese,
I'm gonna go Grizzlies.
Reese and Torrey are going Grizzlies.
Zach called himself the Island Wrecker.
All right, while they're doing that, I'm going to try to get caught up on some injuries. Okay.
We got Zach with the Grizz. We got Trevin with the Nets. Got a pattern going. Just waiting on Krish, and then I'll end the chat poll. Krish is going with Memphis. And chat is going with the Nets. We completed the pattern, guys. I'm so proud. There we go. We got me, Zach, Reese, Krish, Grizzlies, Eric, Trevin, Jackson, chat, Nets. Game number 4. We got Chicago hosting the Orlando Magic. Believe it or not, this is not the biggest spread of the day. Chicago is favored at home by 14 points.
All right, so the Bucks are without Brook Lopez, DiVincenzo, Thanasis Antetokounmpo.
We're not on the Bucks game. We're on the Bulls Magic game.
My bad. That was next on my list. Bulls are without Alex Caruso, Javonte Green, Tyler Cook, Tony Bradley, Patrick Williams. The Magic are without Jonathan Isaac, Markelle Fultz, Jalen Suggs, Robin Lopez, Cole Anthony, each one more, Chuma Okeke, Michael Carter-Williams, and last I saw, Mo Bamba and Mo Wagner were both questionable.
Both the Mo's, man? At least it's not both the Wagners, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. There's chat poll. The Magic have a G League team. Jackson's going Bulls. I'm also going to go Bulls. Zach's going Magic.
This feels like a bit of a trap game to me. But I'm going to take the Bulls.
Oh.
I just can't get with the Magic with how many people they have out right now.
Krish is going Bulls. Waiting on Trevin, waiting on Reese. Next up we do have Bucks Pistons, then Pelicans Jazz, Mavs Nuggets, Blazers Hawks. I'm sure you guys can see which game has the higher spread than this one. Reese is going Bulls. This could be a Zach Island. Trevin's going Bulls. And chat is also going with the Chicago Bulls. All right, it's a Zach Island. Game number 5. Now this is Milwaukee and Detroit, Eric.
All right. So the Pistons are without Jeremy Grant, Kelly Olynyk, Isaiah Stewart, Corey Joseph, Frank Jackson, and Derek Walton Jr. The Bucks are without Brook Lopez, Dante DiVincenzo, Thanasis Antetokounmpo, Sime Ojeleye, and Jordan Nwora. Chris Middleton was questionable for personal reasons, but decided to give it a go.
Yeah, 17-point favorite the Bucks are. Is this the biggest spread ever? I think this might be the biggest spread we've ever had.
I think possibly, yeah.
Dude, it's gross. Like I said, the spreads are hard. At 17, I mean...
For me, since Giannis, Middleton, and Drew are all playing, I'm going to take the Bucks.
All right. Normally, I'm used to you saying I'll take the points, so...
Yeah, there's just a lot of games with teams that, like the bad team has a lot of people out, and the good team has most of their players, so...
Yeah.
I'm kind of doing the opposite of what I normally do today. Chris is taking the Bucks.
I'm going the Bucks. I already know Jackson's going to take the Bucks. But I'll wait for his comment. Reese is going Bucks. This could be a clean sweep. Trevin taking his sweet old time as usual. Jackson said, yeah, Jackson, predictable, buddy. Come on, Trevin. Trevin's going Bucks, and Chet is also... Ooh, it's close. Dang, I wish Chet went Pistons, man. Chet was extremely close, but it's Bucks 54%. Clean sweep. Boring. Let's move on. New Orleans is hosting the Utah Jazz, and the Jazz come into the Big Easy as a 10-point road favorite.
All right, so the Jazz are, once again, probably the healthiest team in the league. Paschal, Hassan Whiteside, Azubuike out of this game. So I guess some of their big man depth, but probably won't matter too much. For the Pelicans, they're without Zion, Satoransky, Kira Lewis, and Ingram was questionable last I saw. I've seen. I think he's coming back from protocols, so conditioning. So I'm going to take the Jazz. Chris is taking Pelicans. If anyone has seen anything about Ingram, that might help. But according to everything I'm looking at, there hasn't been a determination quite yet. I don't know if that was the reason or not. I said... I think he got cleared, but it's like, you know how players are getting cleared and then they're not playing that day because they've sat out for 10 days and have not done any exercising or whatever. Yeah. Reese's Jazz. You're muted.
Oh, yeah, I was. You're right. If... just Ingram being questionable. If Ingram was playing, I'd probably take Pelicans because they've been playing well lately. But obviously, so have the Jazz. I'm going to go Jazz. God dang it. Waiting on Trevin. Trevin went Jazz. Okay, and then we'll do Chapel. It might be another Krish Island. We're in too much agreement lately, man. I feel like the protocols have gotten like all of us in agreement too much. Anyway, there we go. Chat's also Jazz. Krish Island once again. The Nuggets are going into Dallas. Dallas is a 3-point home favorite. This should have some variety. I think this is a tough spread. What are the protocols and injuries, Eric?
All right. So we have for the Nuggets, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., PJ Dozier, Marcus Howard, Monte Morris, Zeke Naji, Jeff Green, all out. For the Mavericks, Porzingis, one of the protocols today, he is out, along with Willie Cauley-Stein, Trey Burke, Isaiah Thomas, and Ja'Cory McLaughlin. So Luka's back, Porzingis not back. And the Mavs are on a back-to-back as well.
This is really interesting, actually.
I'm taking the Nuggets.
Yeah, Krish is also taking the Nuggets.
Because his boy Bones is back. But he's only
right.
He's only playing in 3 to 4 minute stints.
Zach goes Nuggets.
Or Noogies.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. Trevin's going Nuggets. Is this Luka's first game back?
No, he played last night.
How did he play? Was he solid?
I don't know. I didn't see his stat line. I just saw he played.
He was 6 for 14 last night. Only 14 points. Jackson, make your pick, man.
Jackson and Reese.
Reese is going with Dallas. Where? I don't see it.
I don't see it either.
Jackson, you trolling me, man?
I see. Please like the stream. It'd be very cool. And
I mean, I appreciate you campaigning for
didn't
likes.
Play great. I already did, man.
Above Trevin's message.
Nope.
Nope, I don't see it, man. I don't know what happened. Your message fell into the abyss. But Jackson's going Nuggets. I'm going Mavericks. Let's go, Reese. Chat's going Nuggets. Let's get it, Reese. Or chat. Wait, did I say chat's going Mavericks? I meant Nuggets.
You said Nuggets.
Okay, yeah. I don't know. Anyway, all right. Game number 8. This one will be fun. Atlanta's a 5-point road favorite in Portland.
No, I do not have top chat on. I never have top chat on. So. All right. So Hawks are without John Collins, Bogdanovich, DeAndre Hunter, Solomon Hill, Gorgie Jang, and Jalen Johnson with Cam Reddish questionable. Blazers are without Dame, CJ, Brandon Williams, Cameron McGriff, and Cody Zeller. And just announced breaking news by one Yusuf Nurkic himself. Sources close to Nurkic say he's playing tonight.
Okay, well, I mean, that changes things maybe. So who are we starting? We're starting Simons, Powell, Nas,
Nance and Nurk.
So we got 3 shooters out there. 3 non-shooters out there. This makes it harder, man. With Nurkic playing.
Mavericks were able to stay afloat with these guys.
ESPN, chill. Chat's going Hawks heavy. Jackson's going Blazers. Zach and Reese are going Atlanta.
Jackson.
What are you going with, Eric?
I already said Hawks, but yeah, Jackson going Blazers seems out of character right now.
So who are the Hawks? I can't talk. Who are the Hawks starting? Trae Young,
Capella. They still have Gallinari, I guess.
So he's gonna have like 30.
They have Herder. Well, Cam Reddish plays. He's been playing huge for them lately.
I just feel like...
Yeah, Blevins is back. Mute that buzzer.
I feel like this is the game Portland, like, figures things out.
All right.
But I don't know if I want to go with them.
Chris never learns his lesson.
I mean, like, if I pick Blazers and then they keep doing what they've been doing and I don't gain a game on Jackson because of this, I would be kicking myself, you know?
Viks Bogdanovic is out of this game.
Trevin went Hawks. Chat went Hawks. Dude, I am struggling with this one.
Just go Blazers then.
I'll just... Do I have a coin? I have a coin. I'm flipping a coin. Good old coin flip. Heads is Blazers. Alright, it's heads. I'm going Blazers. I trust the coin. Game number 9. We got Golden State hosting Miami. Golden State's a 10.5 point favorite.
Yeah, so Golden State, they just announced today that Clay might play this Sunday. But he is out of this game along with Wiseman, but they didn't have anyone else listed on their injury report. So they got all their guys back, including Draymond for this one. For the Heat, they're without Bam Adebayo, Dwayne Dedmon, Udonis Haslem, Markieff Morris, KZ Okpala, Victor Oladipo, Duncan Robinson, Max Strus, and PJ Tucker was questionable. And they're on a back-to-back.
So who out of their starting lineup did you say was out? Like, who are their notable players?
Bam.
Butler's playing, though?
But Dedmon's out, too. He was starting. Butler should play. He wasn't listed on the injury report, but he's sometimes a late scratch. Duncan Robinson, PJ Tucker.
All right, this one's interesting. Chris is going Warriors, Zach's going Heat.
I am just going to go with it today and say Warriors. All these big spreads.
Yeah.
I don't think the Heat can score enough in this one. Oh, they have Lowry, I guess. But... Reese and Jackson are on the Heat.
I'm going Warriors.
Tori's Warriors. Chris. Trevin.
Warriors. And chat is Warriors. So Zach, Reese, Jackson versus everyone else. All right. Chat's Warriors. There we go. All right, final game, game number 10. We got the Clippers. We got the Timberwolves. The Clippers are not 10.5 point favorites. Let me just fix that right now. The Clippers are actually... I was really excited to get done with these graphics. If you can't tell, I forgot to change the spread. The Clippers are... Oh, I don't want to look at the scoreboard. The Clippers were like 1.5 point favorites, if I recall correctly. I can look.
I could find out without looking it up. Hold on just a second.
Nah, I can look without looking. The Clippers are 3-point favorites.
Yeah.
I'm just not... There's 2 games that have already tipped off. So for double downs, I'm not going to pick... Yeah.
All right, so the Timberwolves are on a back-to-back, and they're without Karl Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell. The Clippers are without Kawhi, Paul George, Zubac, Hartenstein, Luke Kennard, Brandon Boston, and Batum is also questionable.
Yeah, this is just gross.
I'm going to take the Timberwolves.
Hold on, I got to type the chat poll.
All right. Zach. I'll let you know in a minute.
There we go. All right, so you went who?
I went Wolves along with Reese and Krish.
So who do the Clippers still have? Reggie Jackson?
Serge Ibaka, Marcus Morris, Eric Bledsoe, Keon Johnson, I guess.
This is the toughest, games to pick in a while. I am really struggling.
Trevin, Jackson, Reese, and Krish all Wolves.
And you said the Wolves played last night?
Yeah, they played the Lakers.
How'd they do?
They lost by like 5 or 7 or something. And Zach took the Clippers.
I'm going to take the Clippers.
Okay.
And chat's going Timberwolves. All right, Zach, let's get it. All right, there we go. Double down time. Let me erase these. And I'm not picking one. I'm not picking that. I'm not picking that just because it started. Brooklyn 6.5. Chicago by 14. Milwaukee.
Can you go to the Jazz Pelicans game real quick for me?
Yeah. What about it? I'm already there, actually.
It was just a Chris Island. Okay. Shit.
I'm not confident in any of these, dude. I am very not confident at all. If you haven't looked at the score, Jackson, you can pick Hornets, I guess. That's what I was going to pick, too. I should have said something. But I didn't see the score, so screw it. I trust that you guys haven't seen the score. Jackson's going Hornets, I guess, because he's cheating. Zach's going Heat. Jackson would cheat. Dude, I don't know, man. I hate all these spreads. I hate all my picks. Like,
Reese took the Timberwolves as his.
okay. Oh, I hate this.
Chris took Houston.
What?
All right.
Okay. That's random. That's not what I expected.
Chats is the Bulls, I believe. Except for I can't see. Oh, I can now. Okay, yep, they're the Bulls.
The Bulls were what in this game?
14-point favorites.
I'm tempted to go Bulls. Sorry, I'm just gonna scroll through the spreads because I don't know, man.
Who was Trevin took the Bucks.
All right, I'm gonna go Bulls.
Tori's in it with chat.
Yep. What are you going with, Eric?
Just make sure I got everyone. I am going to go with. Oh, man. I'm going to go Warriors.
Okay. Warriors is 10.5-point favorites. All right, so picks are locked in. Those are the double downs. I know that Jackson did not cheat because the Hornets are down 9. So that accusation was false. Anyway, that's how you know I didn't see the score either because, yeah, I accused him of cheating and he wasn't cheating. I just realized your camera's like way over.
It's from having Reese.
Yeah, that's right. So I need to fix that.
And Ingram is playing.
At least everybody went Jazz. Whatever. That's
What's
fine.
up, Chris?
I felt like Ingram was gonna play, but yeah. Well, if Chris needs to gain a game on all of us, so I'll let him have that. All right, that's picks against the spread. I also got to fix this main camera. I did not realize that this is just all messed up still. That's funny. I'm trying to grab your camera, Eric camera. Slide. I assume you want to be in the middle of your screen there. Yeah. I still feel like I'm not fully centered, but it says I am, so I will assume that's the case. All right, so yeah, I asked Eric. I'll let you bring up this topic of conversation because I was lost on potential stream titles today, and you suggested is Dame on board with tanking, which is a good discussion and made for a pretty good thumbnail. Shout out to Krish for those edits. So I will let you kind of lead this conversation. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so low-key, Dame sits out 10 days, right?
Mm-hmm.
He comes back, and I'm going to bring this up real quick. Let me just bring up his game logs. All right, so comes back, and these are his minutes played since sitting out 10 games for the Blazers, right? And we are 2-7 since he came back, mind you.
Yeah.
So he sits out 10 days. It was for rest. He gets an injection. He says he's feeling good. And we proceed to play him 37 minutes, 47 minutes, 38 minutes, 37 minutes, 37 minutes, 40 minutes, 36 minutes, 36 minutes, and then 32 minutes. Most of those games we lost by double digits. 5 of those games lost by double digits, and we're never really in most of those games. So a lot of those games he would have played closer to 40 when he played like 36 or 32 minutes, if not for the fact we were losing by so much in the fourth quarter. So I have to wonder what we're doing to this guy. Like, I don't get it. Like, he sits out. We know if he's going to play through it that he cannot take like a heavy workload, right? And yet he comes right back, and that's all we do is give him heavy workload game after game. We make him play 12-minute stints. Like, why not play him shorter stints or do something? Like, why do we play him full quarters at a time? It makes no sense. And then we allow him to dictate whether he stays in at the beginning of the fourth quarter after playing the whole third quarter a lot of times. And I feel like he has to be monitored better. And the fact that just a few games, 9 games after he sat out 10 games for rest and was feeling good, apparently, we have to now deal with potentially excuse me, potentially him being out like games now, sitting out for rest and sitting out because of his ab issue still. It leads me to believe that, I mean, I don't know if he is on board, but if he's willing to sit out a game like this, I just feel like maybe you can convince him with being 9 games under 500 almost halfway through the season that maybe in long-term best interest would be to sit out the rest of the season. If surgery is an option to fix it, get it now and be ready to go next season. Because even if we made a couple miracle trades, I just don't see getting good enough to contend this season. So what's the point in doing that when if you think about it the other way, tanking leads to getting a better asset than we could possibly get in any trade, really. So why not go for that route and do something completely different? Yes, it's risky. Yes, Dame is getting up there and will soon be out of his prime. And yes, a first round or a top pick might not be ready to contribute years 1 and 2 as much as we need them to do. But I still think that's more likely to pan out and get a good prospect that way, or use that asset in a trade to say we get like the 5th pick or whatever. I think that's a better route than anything we could do this season to salvage the season.
Yeah, I mean, the logic behind it is very sound, and it's just, I've said that in the past that the Blazers aren't going to tank because Dame wasn't going to be on board with it, and I don't think he would have. We were too good to tank in previous years. This year, it might be a situation where A, we're bad enough, and B, this abdominal thing is bothering him, and a combination of those two things might make him okay with it. So if he's okay with it, I think you have to go full force ahead with tanking. The problem is we can't just trade players now, so it's not a situation where you can necessarily like bench Nurkic or bench Rocco or bench a number of guys. So it could be a situation where, you know, maybe those guys play well enough that we still win too many games and still, I don't know, finish maybe 10th and finish in a play-in spot or something. I don't know. It's not something that I'd count on, but it's a situation where we're not like the Pelicans if they're missing Zion, right? We're not like the Oklahoma City Thunder. We're not like the Houston Rockets. We have some players that can play basketball. The biggest reason why we've lost games is a bunch of stupid, boneheaded defensive mistakes, but it isn't necessarily due to a lack of talent. So it's like, Chauncey, I still expect him to try and help these players figure out what they're doing wrong and fix it. Now, that hasn't resulted in anything, but it's still a situation where even if Dame's on board with it, I'm not sure that we can tank to a spot where we're like have top 5 lottery odds unless we trade basically multiple players out. The problem is those trades likely wouldn't happen for another month, and I don't know. So it's a situation where January we could have a winning record and be like borderline 10th. Like I could see that happening. I don't know if it's a situation where we can tank as effectively as people think we can.
I kind of disagree. We've been terrible. Like we were terrible at the beginning of the season with some of those guys. I mean, they could still figure it out, but
I wouldn't say we were terrible at the beginning of the season. I mean, we started 10-8.
Yeah, but like we had one win on the road at that time, and that was against the Rockets. And we showed flashes at home, I guess, but the schedule makers made this decision a little easier today, in my opinion. We had our schedule game that got postponed with the Nets rescheduled for a back-to-back against them on the 10th. And Kyrie's back on Wednesday, so that game is a road game, so he'll be back. So unless something happens between now and then, between one of their big three, they'll have their full complement of star players for that game. So we're talking Kyrie, Durant, Harden all playing most likely. And then so we go on we have a back-to-back, and then we have a 6-game road trip a couple days later that we go out on. So I don't know if January it's in the cards to have a winning month, even if we are trying to have a winning month. And I know the Nets are also on a back-to-back. I'm just talking in terms of our team and tanking. That might make the decision a little easier. But I don't know. If Dame sits out, I don't think this team can play well enough to win enough games to get back into the top, portion of the standings. So,
I mean, I'm not talking about top portion of the standings. Yeah. I'm talking about like.
I just mean like
we finish as like the eighth worst team, right? Mm-hmm. And then we get the 8th pick. There's nobody that really intrigues me at the 8th pick. This draft is not as. Yeah. I don't know, like outside the top 4, I haven't watched enough film on a number of guys, so this is just my very early premature like takeaways from what I've heard about this draft, and then some of the prospects I've seen. Every prospect that it seems like you can get 7th or 8th in the draft seems like they're not going to be ready to contribute for at least 2 years, or at least contribute as at a high level. Now there will be guys that break out and do. It's just going to be hard to nail those guys. It just seems like a crapshoot from like 7th, 8th on down through the rest of this draft. Now, but that's just my assumption, so I could be wrong. But I mean, I've watched some Kendall Brown, and he's like the consensus like 5th, 6th best player in this class, and I'm not a big fan. So yeah, I don't know. Well, I need to do more research though.
There's 2 lines of thinking there. One is whether we choose a full-on tank or try to be good, but still are only good enough to get the 8th worst odds or whatever, like you said. It's a case where that's still better in my mind than losing our pick, not having any cap space, and all that kind of stuff. So you still have an asset, even if you have the 8th pick, that would be a movable asset that we wouldn't have if we don't tank and Dame fights and scraps our way to the play-in game or whatever. And even if we lose that play-in game, the 8th pick or whatever is better than the 13th pick or whatever. And also, whatever strategy we choose, if we are in the bottom 3, we could still get unlucky and fall to 5th or 6th like the Thunder last year. And we could get the 8th worst odds and get lucky and move up. So it's not like football where you're determined by record or whatever. So whatever strategy they do or whatever place they finish would require either getting lucky or not getting unlucky when it comes lottery night. So
yeah, I mean, that's the problem with this, but like I could see us finishing 10th, 11th worst odds, and you're probably not moving up from that. That's the thing is people are just like, let's tank. I want Jabari, I want Banchero, I want, Chet or whatever, but I feel like it's still unlikely that we get one of those 3 guys, even if we do tank. And I like Jaden Ivey, but people would freak out about us drafting another guard, and outside of that, it's just very So there is a lot of downside potentially to this strategy. I'm not saying that we shouldn't go forward with this strategy. I just feel like everybody, and I don't blame them, they get excited about the top prospects and whatnot, but it's still a situation where we could easily end up out of the top 4. Either, we don't get good enough lottery odds or we get unlucky.
Yeah, for sure. It's risky, but I still think the risk of doing that, or the things you could do, like I said, if you fall outside the top 4 or whatever, or even if you were 4th, you'd probably look into trading it if Ivy is the 4th, unless someone ahead of you takes Ivy, which is a possibility as well. So I just think having that asset is so much better than anything we have in a trade right now. So getting a top 10 pick, whether we keep it or not, I just think it's worth the risk of trying a different strategy. And
it's worth it. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just pointing out the downside.
Yeah. The other thing is, I've mentioned this on air before, but Dame believes in his ability to be a decent player into his mid-30s. And he sees what Chris Paul's doing at like 36 years old and sees no reason why he can't lead a team like the Thunder to the playoffs, or the Suns to the finals. So he just needs some help at some point, build a good team around him. And if you think about it in that sense, he still has a few years before getting to that point. So I don't think it's a case where if we convince him to tank, he's gone or he's going to leave. I think he's recommitted to Portland. I believe he's in this long term. I don't think he's going to ask out. I think he'll probably ask for the extension this summer, and we'll probably give it to him depending on who our new GM is or if Cronin stays. And like I've mentioned before, we could time it out to where he accepts it and is untradeable this next year, so we can put all those rumors to bed. Anytime anyone brings that up during the season, we can just say they're stupid. So if he's committed to that, I think I don't see anything wrong with this route, and at least you could say you tried. And if a star becomes available, having that asset, no matter what pick we are, is still better, a better asset to get that player than we would have had we make a run here. So yeah. I don't think we're good enough to. I don't think we're good enough to make a run if we sit Dame though.
I mean, define make a run. I'm just saying, like, we've had a hard schedule. Yeah. If we're sitting Dame but have everybody else, I mean, the thing is you got to trade a bunch of people, right? I'm just saying, like, you got to keep up with the losing if you're trying to tank. And there's some real bad teams in the NBA. Detroit and Orlando are already far ahead of us in the losing category. You know what I mean? So that's already 2 teams. And then you got New Orleans, you got OKC, you got Houston, and Houston's a mess. So it's like right now we're what, around 5th, 6th best odds. I mean, we have better role players on this team than any of those teams. You know what I mean? So even if we sit our star player, it's still a situation where we're not going to win a bunch of games or anything.
Well,
but I could see us winning enough where we're end up 6th, 7th, 8th, and then you're not looking at anywhere near as good of a player. That's the downside. That's all I'm explaining.
I'm on board with trading a lot of those guys, though.
Well, so am I. We're not. I feel like we're in agreement here. I'm just pointing out the potential downside. I don't know. I don't know what the argument is.
I mean, we saw Houston win 7 games in a row, and they're healthy. I mean, I don't think it's out of the possibility this kind of they regroup after all the dysfunction right now.
Anything's possible. I just feel like it's going to be hard for us to get in the top 4. That's all I'm saying.
I also think you kind of limit, even if you do decide to keep certain players. You play, Nas 35 minutes a game. You play Ant 35 minutes a game. Let them develop. Give Greg Brown some minutes. I think there's ways around it, even if we don't make trades.
Yeah, I still think it's going to be hard to get in the top 4. That's just my takeaway. I don't know. Do you not agree that it's still going to be hard to...
I mean, I agree with you that it's going to be very, very difficult to pass either or fall lower than Orlando or Detroit. That might be a bit of a lost cause. But we know the top 3 have the same odds, and it's pretty good odds if you're in that 5th, 6th range to move up to the top 3. Just requires some luck.
Yeah, I mean, it's just funny because you've been talking about, like, I feel like this team's gonna make a run, and they're gonna do what they always done, like.
But it's with like Dame, though.
yeah, but even without Dame, like, I feel like they're good enough to not make a run. But even if they play 500 basketball, they're making it very tough on them to get themselves to get into the top 4. Or even if they play even if they win 4 out of 10 games, it's going to be hard for them because these other teams are going to drastically tank down the stretch, and we're going to be playing a lot of these tanking teams down the stretch, especially like late March, early April. So it's just if I had to bet, if we tried to tank, I would say there's a greater than 50% chance that we're not in the top 4 in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
I would say there's at least like a 60 to 65, maybe a 60 to 70% chance that we're not in the top 4.
Yeah.
So I just wish this was a little deeper draft. Had a little bit more talent in it. Because even like a Franz Wagner would look really good on this team. You look at Wagner last year. And that's what's funny is we would have not been thrilled with drafting Wagner, but he's surprised both of us. But anyway, I've cooked up 3 tanking trades if you're interested in them, Eric.
Yeah, real quick, I want to finish something off though. So the Sixers, because this reminds me of a point we were at in the 2016-17 season, right? There was a point where we were like 1 or 2 games behind the Magic, I think it was, for the 4th seed, or the 4th worst seed. And then we go on a run late in the season, obviously, make the playoffs and all that. That was the year, that would have been the year we traded for Nurk, right? Yeah, so we traded for Nurk during that season and go on Nurk fever run, right? Make the playoffs as the 8th seed. Nurk gets hurt. We get swept by the Warriors. And I did the math on that at the time. And it would have been really, really difficult to move any further because, like you're saying, even if we tanked as hard as possible, I still don't think we would have passed any of the teams below us because they all were terrible the rest of that season too. But just looking at the odds, so the Celtics had the best odds that year with Brooklyn's pick, and they ended up getting it. The Lakers had the third best odds or worst odds and moved up to second. The Sixers had the fourth best odds and moved up to third. Magic, I think, fell to sixth. So yeah, every year is different. It's just one draw of the lottery, so you never know. And those were different odds back then as well. And this draft isn't as deep, like you said, but it's a situation where I still think that chance of getting a difference maker, because if we land in the top three, it could completely alter the course of this franchise. So I think just the percentage chance of that happening is better than
I feel like you think I'm arguing that we shouldn't try.
I know.
But you've listed the reasoning for it.
You still have to get lucky. Yeah, you still have to get lucky.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not arguing that we shouldn't try. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like that's kind of how you respond. No, we should definitely try because of the chance of the difference maker, all that. And you've explained it well, all the reasons why we should try on this stream, on previous streams. So I think at this point, I'm not sitting here arguing that we shouldn't try. It's just, it's going to be more difficult to get into the top four than people think. That's it.
And for the record, the lottery is not rigged.
Yeah.
Zion would not be in New Orleans if it was rigged.
Yeah, why would they want Zion in New Orleans? I mean, they kind of... If they rigged that, they screwed over Zion's career because that's a terrible destination for him. If you know, you know. Anyway, I got 3 trades. Let's just end this. I'm curious what you think, and I'm curious what chat thinks. If we're going the tanking route, all right, here's a trade that I like, all right? This is a Norman Powell trade. I like this. You got Norm to the Timberwolves. We send our 2022 second. We get back a top 10 protected first, Naz Reid, Taurean Prince. This would obviously be dependent on the Timberwolves being in playoff positioning around the trade deadline and potentially being able to get into the top 8. So if that's the case, then I could see... I mean, I think Norman Powell would be an interesting fit there. Off the bench, or maybe playing in a 3-guard lineup with D'Lo, Anthony Edwards, and himself. I love Naz Reid. All right, I think this might be a little bit too much for the Timberwolves. That's why I was giving them a very early second here if we're going the tanking route. What do you think of this trade, Eric?
Yeah, it's not bad. If we're tanking, I definitely like the parameters of this kind of trade. Getting a mid-first in addition to our pick, which would be hopefully high lottery. And then getting a cheap big man for next year who's only under contract for $1.9 million or something next year, and then getting an expiring contract, so some tax relief, I guess. So that would be the only. I mean, you'd have to follow it up because if we're tanking, we have to get under the tax. So obviously, I'm sure the rest of the trades get us there.
Yes.
But I would definitely be down for this kind of trade if we are going the route of just getting rid of pretty much everyone to regroup and reset and just try something different around Dame.
Yep. Cheap and young, but serviceable enough to be rotation players is going to be a theme in these trades. So this is trade number 1. Shout out Polyross $2 dono. He says draft Christian Coloco. He's going to be huge. I haven't watched enough of him. I just know he plays for Arizona. Appreciate the $2 dono, Polyross.
A lot of people are high on his teammate Mathurin too. So.
Yeah. Mathurin is looked at as a top 10 prospect, and he looks impressive. He looks like a shooter with maybe the potential to do some other stuff.
And so, just the parameters of this trade. There's my other one I always bring up is Boston has a trade exception that can fit Norman Powell. And if they wanted him bad enough, I think he'd be a good fit, spacing the floor for Tatum and Brown. You look at getting like a Nesmith and a first from them, which would also be similar type of pick as Minnesota, probably in that mid first.
Yeah. We do get Nesmith in there first in this series of trades, by the way.
All right. So yeah, it's just like, and then Alex Wolf, who's in chat right now, was asking me yesterday what I think the Cavs would have to give up to get Norman Powell. And that's tough because they don't have any like contracts that match up well outside of Rubio. So I guess maybe if we're tanking, we take Rubio because he's out for the season.
Yeah, but he's an expiring.
An expiring contract that's out for the season. I don't know if that they want to trade him based on that. Getting someone that could help them now. I think Norm would be a good fit for them as well. And whatever team like Minnesota and Cleveland are great examples of this. Norm is under contract for 4 more years at a really reasonable rate. So they're not only making a trade for this year, but they're getting someone that they know will be on the team for several years unless they decide to move on from him. So, we any kind of trade with them would probably have to include multiple firsts, so we're probably talking 2 firsts. I don't know.
I'd want a combination of 2 young players and or firsts.
Yeah.
So Naz Reid and a first.
I'm just saying, if we did a deal with Cleveland, I'm trying to answer his question for him. So,
no, I know. So 2 firsts, because they don't really have a young player.
Right.
That makes a ton of sense for us.
Yeah, so in that case, an expiring and 2 firsts, So that makes sense. I don't know if they're willing to give up first. Maybe they think they're going to be good for years now that they've got their front court figured out. But, it's just... and so people are asking, like Adam asked, how do your tanking trades affect the following season, though? These need to be players that would help next year. So I'll just speak for you. Torrey loves Naz Reid, and he's a very good he's one of the better backup centers in the league. Could easily fill a starting role if he got more minutes, can shoot a little bit, can run the floor, is a good defender. So I think Naz Reid is a player that would help us next year. And we get possibly either a mid-first round pick or, that trade asset to use in another deal down the road.
Yeah. So that's going to be a theme of this. Naz Reid, $1.9 million next year as a good backup center is a very good option, in my opinion, and it makes sense for Minnesota to trade him. They got Cat at the 5, so those guys don't really fit super well together, so that's why he might be attainable in a trade such as this. All right, trade number 2 kind of goes along this line, and this is something I haven't really seen people suggest, but I got Larry Nance Jr. to the Hornets for Jalen McDaniels and Ish Smith. Okay, I feel like for the Hornets, Larry Nance Jr. would be the perfect small ball 5. I wonder if I can get our faces in it. Nope. I'll just put it over our faces script. Larry Nance Jr. is a perfect small ball 5 for Charlotte. They like to play really fast. He can push the ball in transition, hit guys. He can pass. And they need, I think, a little bit more big man depth. They got Mason Plumlee as their center, and then their backup center is like a 6'8" PJ Washington right now. I think Larry Nance Jr. would fit really well with PJ Washington. He would just be an intriguing fit there. We get back Ish Smith, who's not guaranteed next year, so it's basically an expiring. And then Jalen McDaniels. Jalen McDaniels right now is playing really well, so I don't know if Charlotte would want to give up on him. He's shooting 40% from 3, over 50% from the field, can play some defense, so could be a rotation player right away. He's young. And is only making about $1.9 million next year. So we basically replace Larry Nance Jr. with Jalen McDaniels, still a rotation player, and we save about $8 million for this upcoming offseason.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I still think Nance kind of fits for next year if we're trying to be good next year. So I don't know if. I mean, I see your thinking here. I don't know if I would pull the trigger on this particular trade, though.
I mean, Jalen McDaniels has been really nice.
Yeah, he's been
here's
good.
The thing with Naz Reid. With Naz Reid is kind of like slotted in to be our backup center. I think Nance is a little bit more expendable for a forward. Yeah. So that was kind of my thought here. My thought here is we're trying to create as much cap space for this off season. It makes it easier to make trades, so it's not just for free agency purposes, but it would just give us more flexibility. So if we can get a young, cheap rotation player back, like a Jalen McDaniels, I really like this trade. Would slot in as the backup forward, in my opinion. Right away, he can shoot, play defense, cheap, young, somewhat athletic. So This isn't Jaden McDaniels. I don't know if anybody got confused. Jaden McDaniels plays for the Timberwolves. This is his brother Jalen. But yeah, so that's kind of the theme of this, is trying to create cap space and get back cheap, young rotation players. Mm-hmm. So this was trade number 2.
Okay.
Trade number 3 is a little bit more complicated. It's going to be a 3-team deal. You got Portland trading out CJ McCollum, Cody Zeller, and Dennis Smith Jr. They get back DJ Augustine, who's basically an expiring, Enes Kanter, who's basically an expiring, or he is an expiring, Juan Hernan-Gomez, who's an expiring, he's non-guaranteed next year, and then Aaron Nesmith and 2 first-round picks from Boston. Boston trades Al Horford, Nesmith, Hernan-Gomez, and Ennis Freedom, and 2 first-round picks. They get back CJ McCollum, Eric Gordon, Cody Zeller. The Rockets trade Eric Gordon and DJ Augustine, get back Al Horford and Dennis Smith Jr. I'll just start with the Rockets. Al Horford is partially guaranteed for $14 million next year. So they are able to save money on Eric Gordon, who's fully guaranteed for about $19 million. Eric Gordon doesn't really fit what they're trying to do at all. So if they can, save some money there, I think it makes sense for them. For Boston, they need a playmaker. They get CJ, who can slot in next to Brown and Tatum. They also get Cody Zeller to replace Enes Kanter. That was just to make salaries work, so they swapped Kanter for Zeller. And then we basically get expirings, Nesmith and 2 future firsts. Nesmith could potentially be a rotation player next year at a very cheap price tag. And then we get 2 firsts back for CJ along with him. I think that's a solid trade for us.
Yeah, a lot of people are going to balk at this one, but
yeah, I had to make sure you liked it, so I had to go get Nesmith.
I mean, I don't really like this as a CJ trade, but
you don't? You wouldn't like Nesmith expirings and 2 firsts?
I mean, once again, I understand what you're doing, but yeah, it just seems like if we're talking about CJ trades, I can see why people would be disappointed.
Well, I'm very confused right now. So how much, like, in terms of a combination of, like, first-round picks, Nesmith to me is like a first-round pick because he's still very young, was drafted 14th only last year in 2020. So this is essentially getting 3 firsts back for CJ.
I mean, he's got, like, no value because he hasn't played well at all outside of certain stretches, though. So that's more of, like, a project at this point than a reclamation project versus a first-round pick value.
I just feel like it's going to be hard to get back something better than Nesmith and 2 firsts for CJ if we're going the tanking route.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I would hope we could get, I don't know. And this way is better than my Knicks one because we don't have to take on Fournier or Kemba, I guess. But
yeah, that was my idea. I looked at your Knicks one, I was like, this one's better than that because we get Nesmith. I know you love Nesmith. We get 2 firsts and don't have to take on contracts. So I was shocked when you were like, yeah, this is good.
It just, like Zach says, it makes it hard because unless Nesmith develops, we're giving CJ away for not a lot of help next year unless we do something with those picks. So, still more assets than we have, more cap space than we have, all that kind of stuff. So,
and a worse team so that we can get hopefully a top 4 pick, right? Because that's also a part of this.
Can you check Discord?
Yes, let's see what you got for me in Discord. All right, you got to go. All right, Eric, I will.
Have a good night, everyone. Thank you very much.
See ya. Peace. I'll just make this full screen then. But anyway, this series of trades would leave us with about $30 million in cap space next summer after using our first-round pick. Say we get a Jabari Smith. You end up with, you have Dame, you have Ant, you have Nas, you have Jalen McDaniels, you have Nas Reed, you have whoever you use the pick on, a Jabari Smith, Paulo Banchero, or whatever. That's 6 rotation players, right? And then you would have $30 million. You could maybe go out and sign a DeAndre Ayton. You could maybe throw a max offer sheet at like a Miles Bridges. You could potentially trade the picks that you got from Boston. We'd have 2 picks from Boston. We'd have the pick from Minnesota. Maybe we could trade Nurkic for a pick. I didn't have a trade for that. But if you could trade Nurkic for a first-round pick, then that's 4 firsts. Then you become a player for like a Pascal Siakam, and you don't have to trade Toronto back any salary. So that's kind of the gist of this. It just creates a position where we have a lot of options in the offseason. We have a lot of good, young, cheap players that are good enough to be in the rotation. And I think it puts us in a better position to try and take like 2 steps forward next year. Like, I think going into the offseason, if we had a good offseason, we could have a better team next year than we've had this year, and we would have a better collection of younger players for the future as well on top of that. So that's basically the gist of these 3 trades. I know Ayton is a restricted free agent. You would have to throw a max offer sheet at him. Miles Bridges is also a restricted free agent. So, but that's the thing. It doesn't have to be free agency. You can, if you have cap space, it makes it easier in a trade because a lot of teams, if Toronto trades like a Pascal Siakam, they're not going to want $25 million back in salary. So if you have the cap space or close to the cap space to be able to take on a Pascal Siakam, then it makes that trade maybe easier, and we'd have hopefully 4 future picks or 4 draft picks to trade on top of that. So basically, it would just, Greg Brown would still be on the team. Yeah, I was just listing off rotation players. We'd have 6 rotation players at, most of them making under $5 million a year outside of Dame, and then Ant after his extension. So that would be the idea of a trades like that. Hopefully that makes sense. It's not like super flashy. Eric had kind of like a thread of trades like this, and he I don't know, I like the idea. Just try and get cap space, a bunch of future picks, a bunch of young players, and get the team bad enough to where you can go and hopefully be able to draft a future all-star or superstar in the top 4. And that's basically the idea. John Sherman says, if a trade for a superstar for picks was out there, I feel like OKC would have pulled the trigger. OKC is not trying to trade for a superstar right now. They're rebuilding. The superstar doesn't make them a good team. Even it makes them a pretty mediocre team. Maybe they could get like a 6th seed, but I don't think that's what they're going for. They're playing the long route. But yeah, see, like people would be like, "Oh, we gotta trade CJ. We gotta trade CJ." There's a good chance we don't get a better player than CJ, and if we're really bad, then if we're embracing the tank, then what do people expect for CJ? Like, everybody says they want to trade CJ, but then a trade like this they're not down for. I don't understand that. So, Team 24 says CJ for Lauri Markkanen, Taco, and picks. Here's the thing. The salaries don't work on that. Taco fall. Why? Lauri Markkanen is not a good option for us whatsoever. Doesn't make us better defensively. Stuff like that. I'd rather do this in a heartbeat. Because there's a good chance that you're able to trade, a couple of these first-round picks, then maybe a first from the Powell trade for something better than Lauri Markkanen. John Sherman, that doesn't mean that they're trying to find a superstar. Anyway, that's just the gist of... that's a couple trades. That's what tanking trades, I think, would look like if we went the tanking route. If you guys can come up with something better, be my guest. Send me a DM on Twitter or something. I don't know. I am all ears if you have a great series of trades. But yeah, it's like CJ for Lauri Markkanen is not it, in my opinion. Blazer Report says, at least try and get one of these guys. Jaylen Brown, Ben Simmons, Jeremy Grant, Batum, Jeff Green, Rudy Gay, Sabonis. What is Jeff Green going to change? What is Rudy Gay going to change with this team? They're going to make us have the 8th pick instead of maybe a top 4 pick. That's not a good... I don't like that at all. I don't want to go out and get a role player that makes it so we can't draft Jabari Smith, Paolo Banchero, Chet Holmgren. Like, it doesn't accomplish anything. Trading for a Jeff Green or a Rudy Gay or a Nick Batum. Jeremy Grant doesn't want to play for a winner, so he wants to be the number one option on a team. He wants to stay in Detroit, so he's off the table. Ben Simmons, Daryl Morey wants the moon for him, right? And if we were to trade for Ben Simmons, we'd have to unprotect our pick this year with how bad we are. That's a terrible idea. We'd have to unprotect our pick this year and then trade 2 other firsts, and yeah. So Ben Simmons right now is off the table. Daryl Morey would have to come down a lot. Jaylen Brown, we don't even know if he's available. And I highly doubt Boston trades Jaylen Brown for CJ McCollum. That doesn't really make sense. So that's the problem with trades like that. That's the problem, is might not be a feasible trade where we can trade CJ for a better player or a player that makes more sense. And if we're 15 games under 500, why not trade him for picks that you could trade for a player like that? Because here's the thing. If we trade CJ for picks and Aaron Nesmith, and it makes the team worse, that makes our chance of getting a top 4 pick higher, and if we got a top 4 pick, it would be a lot easier to go out and get a guy like a Jaylen Brown or a Ben Simmons by trading that top 4 pick. And then you have a bunch of other future firsts on top of that, then it would be a lot easier to go out and get a player like that. Shoot, we could probably keep the top 4 pick and trade 5 future firsts. Some of the firsts we got at the trade deadline for guys like Norman Powell, maybe Yusuf Nurkic, Robert Covington, etc. We could potentially package all those picks for a Jaylen Brown if Boston wants to kind of rebuild, right? So that's the thing. It's easier to trade first than it is to trade players, because with a first-round pick, a team can draft whoever they want, right? And then with first-round picks, teams can trade them to a team that's deciding to blow it up. Whereas a guy like CJ, the team has to think CJ is a good fit on the court, a good fit in the locker room, and what they're missing. But the problem is, if they're giving up a better player, then it's really hard for CJ, for Jaylen Brown, to make Boston better, if that makes sense. So that's the problem with potential CJ McCollum trades. Hopefully that makes sense. Marcus asks, what would your ideal plan for next year be? Focus on forwards and move CJ and Powell. Keep Powell or try and get near NBA third-team guard. At this point, Powell's been very disappointing lately. I'm 100% on board to trading Powell. Honestly, I probably want to move CJ and Powell. Because Powell, I'm not as enthusiastic about trading Powell as I am CJ, but Powell has not been good defensively this year. As the number 2 guy offensively, he's been very rough. See you later, Charlene. Yeah, it's just a tough. It's not an easy situation. So that's the thing. If we're going the tanking route, something like that where we can cash in Norm, Nance, CJ for 3 future firsts, Naz Reid at $2 million next year, and Jalen McDaniels at $2 million next year, and a flyer on an Aaron Nesmith, and then we have a bunch of cap space because of it, and we get bad enough to get a top pick, I'll take that trade. Alex Wolf says, CJ to New York. The problem is New York is so bad, I'm not sure that's going to be an option for us. Like, New York is rough. New York is sitting there at what? They're not even in a playing spot, 17 and 20. I don't know if they're going to want to trade a bunch of firsts for a CJ McCollum. But I don't think you're going to be able... You might not be able to get 3 first-round picks for CJ McCollum. For all the... everybody... It's funny because on a post-game stream where CJ plays and doesn't play super well, I'll come in here and everybody will be bashing him. But then when we start talking about CJ trades, it's like people think we can get Jaylen Brown for him and a bunch of first-round picks. People think we can get a ton for him, and it doesn't really add up. It's like the same people that call him trash think we can trade him for a bunch of stuff. And it doesn't really make a ton of sense to me. Alvaro, what's up? He says, if you were GM, would you trade CJ the best offer or respect his opinion marginally? I don't know exactly what you mean by that, but I mean, I'm shopping CJ. That's the only way I know how to respond to that. Yeah, and I mean, that's the thing is different destinations can change. Nance, maybe it's not Nance to Charlotte, maybe it's Nance to Boston or Nance to somewhere else. That's just kind of the template of something that I would look at, right? And different teams can fill different roles in these trades and whatnot. So I don't want Kevin Porter Jr. I don't want Tobias Harris. Like, Tobias Harris and some assets doesn't get us any closer to contention. Like, I'd rather take a step back to take 2 steps forward than to just tread in place. And that's the thing. Sometimes you have to take a step back to take 2 steps forward. Tyler Cornwall says Charlotte would probably want Nurk. Here's the problem with Charlotte. They like playing a really fast tempo, and Nurkic doesn't really fit that. That's why I like Nance there. Because they do need big depth. I agree with that, but they need somebody that can fit in with a team that runs. Marcus says, are you going with Nance over Rocco for valuable to bring in, or would you rather have Rocco on the team? I would rather keep Nance because he has another year on his contract. Rocco is going to be an expiring. So yeah, Rocco needs to be gone. Rocco needs to be traded to Chicago for our first-round pick back. Derek Jones Jr. can be sent to a third team. We can take back contracts from that third team. But Rocco to Chicago needs to happen. I think it makes a ton of sense for both teams. So, and we owe our 2022 first to Chicago. So if we can get that back, that's a dub. Anyway, we can talk a little bit more trades tonight. And on Twitter, follow me at ToryJonesYT. If you don't follow me on Twitter, you need to follow me on Twitter. I'll put it in the chat for y'all. When is the chat video dropping? That's the thing. If we have a top 5 pick, you will get videos about every top end prospect. The problem is they won't have film in them, but like me and Eric will discuss them like we did a couple years ago. That'll be interesting. Other than that, we're going to wrap this up. Make sure you tune in for the post-game show tonight. New segment. We'll be debuting about an hour into it, so definitely make sure you catch that. It's a community-oriented segment. And we'll discuss more trades. Definitely feel free to hit me up on Twitter. Tweet at me, and I will give my responses there. With that, that's a wrap for this episode of Blazers Uprise Live. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you have a good rest of your night, and hopefully we can see you on the post-game show tonight. I was going to say hopefully the Blazers take care of business, but I'm not sure I really want them to. If we're on board the tank, I can't talk. If we're on board the tank, then I guess we're rooting for them to not take care of business. So, I don't know. We'll just see how this game goes. I'm not going in with expectations or even a preference as to anything that happens. So, anyway, Alex Wolf says, awesome thumbnail. Huge shout out to Krish because he made the Dame on the tank edit and then the Jabari and Paulo Banchero edits. So that's all Krish. That's our graphics guy. Make sure you follow him on Twitter as well. He does phenomenal stuff. His @ is also in the chat. Krish Graphics, Krish Graphics. Anyway, that's a wrap for the stream. We'll catch you later tonight. As always, peace out. Go Blazers.